I get asked quite a bit from parents that have just sent a kid, their kiddo to residential, and they're like, now what? what do I do? Because there's just a whole host. So once your kiddo has gone to residential, there are so many emotions that you feel, and so many things going on at once. Typically, the first thing I tell every parent is rest. it's very it goes against the grain, because there's so much of your life that has probably been put on hold. If you have a kid that has behaviors that are that extreme, there's a lot of things that you've had to say no to, or that have had to go on the back burner so that you could care for your child. And so there's kind of this, okay, while they're working, I've got to catch up on all this part of my life that I had to hit pause on. And there will be a time for that, but it's so important to take the time to rest. It's not uncommon for families, once the kiddo has gone to residential, for especially mom and dad to get sick. It's like your body finally, you've been going off of adrenaline for so long, and things have been so extreme, you've been juggling so many things, that your body is finally like, okay, literally, no one's going to die today, I'm gonna sleep. Or your immune system goes, all right, we're gonna get a cold now, or the flu, or whatever it might be. I can tell you, after one of my daughters went to residential, it felt like I slept for weeks. I slept and I slept and I slept and I slept. I was so exhausted, I didn't know what to do with myself. I kept a pad of paper, I have a notebook, and when those things would bombard me with, this needs to get done and this needs to get done, I just had a notebook and I wrote it down. And I am a list person, and part of that is my age as well. If I don't write it down, I'm not going to remember. And I would have a, has to get done today, or the electricity's going to be shut off. So I had, a now list, and then I had a not now list, things that I could get to. So rest for sure. Second, right off the top, is if you don't have a counselor, for your family, you need to find a counselor, and a good quality counselor. And I will tell you, that is a process. It's not simple. Between figuring out who your insurance will take, and if they won't take insurance, if they have a sliding scale, how you're going to pay for it. A lot of times there's churches that offer counseling, or they can help you with counseling. We had a very, very complex family situation. And I went through 7 intake interviews before I found a counselor. And I appreciated those counselors that just said to me, holy smokes, this is so complicated, I don't even know where to start, and I would not do your family well. I'm not the right fit. And I appreciated that. I also hung up the phone and cried, because I was, we're obviously in a desperate situation if you are sending a kid to residential and you're truly needing counseling. But taking the time to find a counselor and to find the right fit, we actually, even now, we have 3 counselors, because my kids are now teenagers, and what they need and who they need to talk to is different, and they are completely different kids. So I'm a single parent. I'm actually a widow, and so we had a family counselor, and when my husband was alive, we actually had a family counselor. Not a family counselor, I'm sorry. We had a family counselor and we had a marriage counselor. They were separate. And wholeheartedly believe in counseling. And also that you don't always jive with the first counselor that you get assigned or, connected with. It's really important that you trust that counselor, especially if you're having to make huge decisions for your family, that are changing the course of your family. And if you have a kiddo that's going to residential, you have big things happening in your family. they're not for the faint of heart. They're not just for the average Joe. Like, there's some big things happening if you've hit the place of a kiddo needing residential. So that's the second thing, is making time to find a counselor. And then third is just being aware. And again, in my notebook, I started writing down the things. There's home things, like practical things around the house, cleaning and maintenance and that, like with cars and yards and whatnot. But there's also things that will be in your marriage or in your the relationships within the house. There will be things that pop up with your kids. So it was probably, I want to say it was close to 2 months after my youngest was in residential. Her sister, they are 6 days apart, not biological, and but her sister, it took that long for her to, like, she's watching me, she could like feel my stress level kind of go down. She was very in tune to people, and she's like, okay, mom has some capacity now, like mom's able to take on a little more now. And so here would start to come out these different behaviors, different things that she would say. She was very fearful, but she was also very angry. She was angry that she had to, watch her sister almost kill herself on accident. She was angry that she had become a caretaker. And not because I asked her to, but because she was so worried about her sister, she couldn't sleep at night. Her sister had broken things. She had borrowed things and never given them back. She had, there were outings and things that we had to say no to because sister was struggling that day. And she was very angry about those things. And as a parent, it's a tricky place because, the daughter that's in residential, I'm not going to basically talk smack about her. I'm not going to put her down to the rest of the family. I mean, my husband had died. Her dad, that she was super close with, had died. It's a good reason that she's struggling. And, I never wanted to pit my children one against the other. So it is, you have to handle it with some grace, recognize and validate the emotions and the feelings, but also not get into the two of you trashing sister that's in residential. So that's kind of a fine line, but you do have to have a safe place for the other kids and even your spouse, your partner, to be able to express. I also struggled with, anger and the grief of things I had missed out. And, as selfish as it sounds, I had lost an older daughter, and then 7 months later, my husband passes away, and like within 2 weeks, my daughter had to go to residential. I also was angry about that. Like, when do I just get to grieve? Like, when do I get to just sit and be sad about the people that have died without having to worry about another person dying? Like, so those were all things that we, have had to work through. But those are like right at the top of the list. And understanding that not everything has to happen immediately, but also not wasting time. Like, you have to keep track. Like, it seems that families, just in my experience with the families that I've worked with, it's kind of, they go one of two directions. Like, as soon as the kiddo goes to residential, the family is like, work. We have all this stuff. And they never take time to rest and to play again and to have family night or to take a vacation, or just to sleep. Like, they just immediately go, let's go to work. The other extreme, families are so relieved because they can finally rest that anything that requires any kind of emotional Anything that's going to take something like emotional work or be any kind of work, they just ignore it. And it's kind of like, well, we don't have to worry about that right now. Sometimes families mistakenly, are like, well, the person that's the problems in residential, we're all good now because they're being taken care of. And that has never been the case with any family that I have ever worked with. There are always things that are happening inside of the family. It's not just the kid that's in residential that is the problem, so to speak, or that is struggling. Not ignoring it and being like, well, we'll just, all get back together as a family when they're done in residential. Like, it doesn't work that way. And so a lot of times the kids that are in residential, they live in a bubble. They don't have any choice but to work because that's why they're there. And if the family waits too long, then when the kiddo is done with, their residential and they're ready to come home, all of a sudden there's this panic inside the family because they're like, oh, shoot, like, that happened faster than I thought it would, and we're not ready. Like, now we need to start counseling. And then it's, in that sense, like, it's too late. It's really hard to put a family back together in that sense. A lot of times in those situations, the family ends up coming back together, and it's kind of a train wreck. Because some things that could have been dealt with inside of the family unit while the kiddo was at residential didn't happen before they got there. Now they're trying to do it all together, and that's really hard. Not that it can't be done. So it's that finding a happy medium of taking time to rest. And that's why I'm a list person. I write things down so that they're not waking me up at night and, constantly plaguing me. But finding a counselor and then, beginning to work through those things that pop up in the rest of the family that need to have some attention and probably have been put, on the back burner.